There's this nonsense of people talking about inequality as if inequality is something manufactured by Apple or Google, as if someone comes to give you inequality in your country. We act as if there is a human being somewhere in South Africa saying, we want you to be poor and we want you to be rich. Yes, inequality exists, but it is not unique to South Africa, neither is it intentionally directed at a certain group of people. Welcome to Citizen Concerned, where we remind you to beware of the comrades. I'm Katlego and would appreciate it if you subscribed to our YouTube channel, liked and shared this video with other citizens. The statement that South Africa is the most unequal country on earth is used all the time, right? South Africa is the most unequal society, blah, blah, blah. Whenever you hear them say these words, it's about race and it is about blaming other people. There is no internal reflection on their part. They never acknowledge that they have a part to play in changing their country and changing their society. My question is, where on earth do you find people that are equal? I really need to know about this. Which country has equal people in society? This is actually a dumb statement that I found myself falling for several times before. Inequality this, inequality that, but I've never seen any place where inequality has been eradicated. Why is it that the same people who talk about inequality do not talk about talents? Why do they not talk about the different human capabilities that we find ourselves in, the different family structures we live in? Some among us are even born deaf or blind, while others are born without hands or feet. And yet you find that with their blindness or deafness, with their missing arms or legs, they have managed to get degrees, jobs, and even started businesses. Some have managed to be musicians and artists of some sort, professionals and business people, even though it is clear that they were born not so equal to the majority of humans on earth. And yet some of them eat and live better than the vast majority of humans on earth. Guys, inequality is inescapable. Everyone is richer than somebody, and everybody is poorer than somebody. As humans, we are all born with different capabilities and opportunities. Others are very fast learners and others are very fast runners. Some are born with both parents, others one and others none. Others are slow learners and others are very intelligent. But whatever you were born with, if you do not learn to use it or harness it for your benefit, you'll find yourself poorer than many people. People who try to do something with the time, the hands and feet, eyes and ears they were born with or without. Inequality exists everywhere on earth, but it is up to the individual how to deal with it. Look everywhere on earth and you'll see that inequality really exists everywhere on earth. Now, in our state of inequality, we should, however, choose politicians that improve the lives of everyone. Though we may never be equal, you will find that competent, honest, and wise politicians will improve everyone's life, not just the residents of Nkandla. They will make sure that we all benefit from our infrastructure and policies, not just put millions in their couches and call them buffalo money or ankole or whatever you call it. When we see these things being done by our politicians, it means that we as voters are the stupid ones. You are the one who voted for the thief over and over again.
Particularly me, I come from a student background, so I particularly see that when we discuss finance in the student sector. Of course, education is the backbone of any society, but access to education is something in South Africa that has been reserved for those who can afford it.
Okay. I think I will want to touch about the access to education. Only those who can afford are the one who can access the education. But the question is, who are those who can afford? There are those who are minority in this country, because those majority of people who live in this country, they can't afford. Fees are too high. Even the government, they increase fees each and every year. Even our institution increased their fees with close to 4.5%. But the question is, who are all those things saving? In that manner, it's like it's a matter of trying to say, Those who can't afford don't deserve access to education.
There is free education in South Africa. I don't know what she's talking about. I mean, from grade 1 all through 12, there are free schools. For university or college, there's also NSFAS. So I really do not know what she's talking about. This is a problem in South Africa. People just talking. They hear the trendy statement. Okay, South Africa is the most unequal statement in the world. Okay, let me add my 2 cents to the conversation.
I think it's something a bit violent to constantly acknowledge and pat on the back. Yes, we're doing so well. Yes, we're achieving this. Yes, we're achieving that. But on the ground, again, a movement like Fees Must Fall happened from 2015, 2017-ish. And those fights that people did, me included, all those things that the Fees Must Fall activists and protesters did seems null and void. It seems like absolutely the most wasted time, because violence within UCT especially is still replicated year after year. People don't have housing. They don't have access to education. I had to fight to register for my master's this year. Final year master's, they wouldn't let me in because of XYZ. Again,
What's XYZ?
finance, money, because I didn't have the necessary scholarships, I didn't have the necessary marks, everything like that, in order to complete something I'd worked so hard for.
Just running their mouths when they vote dumb. And they start saying education is for those that can afford it. Oh, what a shame. What happened to the attitude of several scholarships and bursaries are available to anyone who works hard to get excellent results, and education is available to them? Oh, but that means self-empowerment and takes away the victim mindset. So not really what many subscribe to.
When people think Cape Town, they think money, luxury. But we also have the Cape Flats. What's life like there?
Which people think that? What people think that? That is not the best way to put it. In every piece of land on earth, there are rich areas and there are poor areas. This is a documentary made to prove a specific fictional point. I mean, here in Johannesburg, we have Sandown and Alexandra, a rich area and a poor area just meters from each other. And every province has that. In every wealthy area, poor people will almost automatically flock there for employment opportunities. And when they get there, their homes and standards of living will not be the same as their wealthy employers. I mean, that is a fact of life. Wherever there is a person with a big house and a big yard, there is someone offering their services to clean, garden, and wash for that person. That is the way of life everywhere across the world. But these people want to make it seem like it's unique to the Western Cape, more specifically blacks in the Western Cape. But the fact is, that is the case everywhere across South Africa. I mean, even within the informal settlements or the townships, you'll find people who have more to put on the table than others. We're all in Soweto or all in Alex, and you find someone having 2 or 3 cars while the rest of us catch Patco buses or taxis. While some are struggling with taxi fare, someone has 1 or 2 residential properties. He or she has a small business, employs a small group of people within the community. That right there is inequality.
A death every day.
Oh, no.
A death of a young person every day, to be more specific. Hopelessness, feeling...
Babies die everywhere across the world. They die daily in Johannesburg too, by the way.
Total poverty, people living in shacks, which is basically like a 4 roof sheet structure with no sanitation, no electricity. They have to go to government grants. They depend on government grants. They depend on soup kitchens for food.
These people do this and say these things as if there are no people who live under bridges in America, as if there are no homeless people in China, Britain, or France.
In the United States, there's about 582,000 people that are experiencing homelessness right now. That number is probably low. Of that 586,000 people, about 60% of them reside in temporary homeless shelters, and the rest sleep in the streets. The reason why I say that number is low is because the way in which homeless people are calculated, the way in which we try to account for them is municipalities, so cities across the country have these things called a point in time count, where they literally have volunteers go out and count people on the streets. So they never count, all the people that are on the streets. And furthermore, aside from people who are actually experiencing homelessness in the United States, especially in our coastal cities, there is a lot of housing instability. So you have people who may not be technically homeless, may not be in shelters or on the streets, but they're couch surfing, they're going from place to place, just trying to, stay off the streets. So the problem in the United States is really staggering.
To be honest, I was shocked the first time I saw so many homeless people in the US online. I mean, in today's China, it's not usual to see homeless individuals, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. In current China, homeless people refer to those who don't have a fixed abode, who cannot rely on their relatives or friends in the big cities, and difficult to ensure their basic food supply and accommodation. It's not like the peasants who lost their lands in ancient agricultural societies. They have different problems, and these people could be divided into different categories. Some have mental illness or physical disabilities, usually caused by tragic accidents, and it changed the life of whole family. Apart from this, the homeless population is mainly made by another group, which is migrant workers who left their homes to earn money in the cities. When I say migrant workers, I mean domestic immigrants. It means people from less developed regions moving to more advanced places.
哪个地方都有人，哪个桥底下没有人？每个桥底下都有人，随便去看一个，哪怕就是10米长的桥底下都有人。这就多少块？啊。
What I'm showing you here is something you're not allowed to see in China. And especially people outside of China are forbidden to see or know about it. Some of this footage I filmed myself in the biggest and brightest cities of China. Some of it has been shared with me from my friends in China, and some of it has leaked onto the Chinese internet only to be quickly censored. But once it has been posted to sites outside of China, it's very difficult for the Chinese government to get it removed. This is China's hidden shame. One of the things they fight tooth and nail to ensure is suppressed and never seen by the outside world.
Such horrors exist everywhere. Western Cape is not special. South Africa is not special. So stop lying to yourself and stop lying to others. As I said earlier, some people have certain things that others do not. For example, war. As South Africa, we don't have wars. That right there is clear inequality between citizens of South Africa and those of parts of the Middle East or Ukraine and Russia who are experiencing war daily. Another one is a lack of skill. We have a lack of skills in South Africa, making us unequal to nations like Germany or Japan who have highly skilled people. In South Africa, millions are unemployed, and yet there are jobs being advertised online every single day. Foreigners are coming here getting jobs. Meanwhile, our young South Africans are not getting the right qualifications. When they get the right qualifications, they are not starting their own companies to build and create wealth for themselves and job opportunities for others because it is not in them. It is not part of their culture. When they get jobs, they want to party and buy golfs and BMWs. How about we address these types of issues in the ongoing discussion of inequality? How about it? Other things are infrastructure. There's an abundance of infrastructure in this country. Yes, I know that it is not everywhere, but there is infrastructure that can be used to create wealth for this country. We have had the ANC destroy this country's infrastructure through corruption, incompetence, and lack of maintenance. They've simply failed to improve the places that were less developed. So there is increasing inequality because of culture in South Africa, and there is increasing inequality because of government.
The poverty rate among Black married couples has been less than 10% every year since 1994. As far back as 1969, young black males whose homes included newspapers, magazines, and library cards had similar incomes to those of their white counterparts. Academic outcomes show a pattern of disparities similar to the pattern of disparities in the amount of time devoted to schoolwork. Apparently, lifestyle choices have consequences.
Yes.
Welfare state, that's government, we don't rely on that. Affirmative action, government, we don't rely on that. We rely on hard work. We rely on the institution of marriage.
I don't think it's the marriage as such or the library cards as such. It's that there are lifestyle choices that have been made. And the comparison I made was between, if you look at the poverty rate among blacks, it was 22%. And among whites, it was 11%. But among black married couples, it was 7.5%.
Right.
So it's not, so they not only do better than blacks as a whole, they do better than whites as a whole. And so it's lifestyle choices. Similarly with the results in some of these more successful charter schools, that you have these kids not only meeting but exceeding the national standards in places like Harlem and Bedford-Stuyvesant and the South Bronx. And these are not kids who are skimming the cream. They're kids chosen by lottery. They don't even test them for ability. They don't even look at their academic record. They take them into the schools and they have hard work and they make it clear at the outset, and they don't tolerate a lot of nonsensical behavior. And these kids are doing incredibly.
So what do? You don't go around crying about it. You don't just talk about it. You change your conduct. You change your culture, and you change your government. What were the results of the 2024 elections? Majority of South Africans actually voted for the same people who are responsible for this nonsense. The ANC is doing nothing about teenage promiscuity in schools. The police have been letting crime go unpunished, business owners be exploited. Youth development funds are poured out every year, but there's no significant rise in skills that will help young South Africans stand head and shoulders with youngsters of other countries. Instead of addressing these things, we get these so-called activists talking nonsense like this.
Cape Town has been declared as the most unequal society in the world, under the leadership of both the ANC, which is the governing party, a liberation movement, as well as under the Democratic Alliance. Spatial inequality is one of the biggest issues. Since the dawn of freedom in South Africa, we've not seen any single affordable unit being built in the inner city to undo the legacy of apartheid. Black and brown people are subjected to having to live in communities where basic services are not provided. And this is not divorced from the historical and deep violent history that we have in South Africa, that non-white people were subjected to such conditions. Less has changed in terms of policy, less has changed in terms of how black bodies are policed in Cape Town. We may say this is a world-class city. Yes, it is for some people, but for the vast majority of people living in Cape Town who happen not to be white people in particular, they still experience the remnant of apartheid. And what can we celebrate in these 30 years of democracy that we have?
Of course, apartheid. Apartheid. There is nothing that they know but apartheid.
So for me, I'm not a youth, so I've got the perspective, a different perspective, in that 30 years have passed, sure. We've got a few freedoms as township entrepreneurs, as township residents, which are mostly policy, changes. But in terms of implementation, nothing has changed. And I agree. We need to be expecting more for, the last 3 decades. We've got nothing to show for it. But when we look at ourselves as indigenous people versus other global indigenous people that have been subjugated, 30 years is not enough time for us to be able to expect us as the indigenous to make the changes. We need to put more pressure on people like the DA, the white people who have had the benefit of privilege for more than 400 years. They need to come in and they need to contribute more. A lot of pressure is put on us as black people to be the ones who have to stand up and fix things and remedy and point out where the problems are. What we need to be doing now is putting the blame or spotlight back onto the people that subjugated us and say to them, they need to come to the party.
We want what white people have. White people pinched us more than 30 years ago. So whatever ouchy feeling we have now is their fault and they must pay. These activists are lame and pointless. In fact, their entire point is to cause problems online. Where are the activists who are going to talk to our people in rural areas regarding voting behavior? Where are they? Corruption goes unpunished. You talk about inequality when the ANC, EFF and Zuma benefited from looted funds from VBS, which was for poor people who were trying to get themselves out of the same inequality you claim to be standing against. And those same people whose money was looted from VBS Bank by the ANC, EFF and Zuma probably have not learnt their lesson. They probably voted for the EFF, MK and ANC in the previous elections. Maybe no one has explained to them, and that too is on us. We are the masters of our own inequality. We keep doing the same things that cause us harm: teenage pregnancies, incompetent, corrupt governments, promiscuity, fatherless children, alcohol addiction, going into debt for BMWs and VWs that we can't afford. That is how you get inequality. Poor choices in choosing politicians, poor choices in the friends you keep around you, poor choices in supporting the lifestyles of these musicians whose lyrics encourage you to spend on nonsense, poor choices to buy big name clothing brands and big name alcohol brands. That is our choice as people. The choice to act like wild animals when we make decent money. The choice to not seek financial advice. The choice to not maintain the one Mercedes or BMW or VW to make sure it lasts until we're 70 years old. When a brand new one comes out, we buy it, making ourselves poor and making the producers and the sellers rich. We live in an unequal society. Hey, who did you vote for? ANC, EFF, MK. Hi guys, hi. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Katlego. This is Citizen Concerned. Until next time, beware of the comrades.